officially get started. Good stuff. Welcome everyone to Thoughts on Thursdays. This is season 2, episode 4, and today we're going to be discussing entrepreneurship and hospitality. And we're really going to be asking the question around, is entrepreneurship a skill that we need to have more of in hospitality? As we think about the creativity and innovation that the industry needs next, is it time to start your own journey? Is it time to bring new skills to your work in a hotel chain or a tech business or an ownership group? Or if you're looking for your next role and thinking about what's next, is this a skill you need to be working on and developing to be, more indispensable than ever in the industry? So super excited to have two hospitality entrepreneurs to kind of chat that through with us today, both kind of relatively early in their journey and relatable, sharing some of their lessons. So I will allow them to do their own intros. We're going to spend kind of 15 minutes or so chatting about their experiences, journeys, and businesses, and then we're going to come back together as a group and we'll be chatting as around the topics and kind of where we think the industry could go next on entrepreneurship. So without further ado, Sophia, over to you. I think you're still on mute.
On mute. Okay, now can you hear me?
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm Sophia. I'm originally from Colombia. So a little bit about my background. So I'm the founder and avo lover of Toasty. That's my official job title. I gave it to myself. And so my background, I studied event management in the Sino-British College in Shanghai, in China. I was there for like 6 years. And then I went to Le Roche in Switzerland, where I did my MBA in hospitality. I graduated in 2014. After that, I went back to Shanghai, where I did a management training with the Intercontinental Hotel Group for 6 months. And that's when I realized hotels were not my cup of tea. So I moved into events and PR, where I was there, a project management at an agency for almost 2 years. Then I decided it was time to come west. So I moved to San Francisco, where my family is based, and I started Toasty. So I'm going to show you a little video about Toasty, because a picture says more than 1,000 words. So as you can probably guess, we are an avocado toast bar. So our business model is we have like a retail location. We were working on opening a second location, but of course, because of coronavirus, everything is paused at the moment. We also do a lot of catering and events. We work with a lot of corporate clients, a lot of tech companies here in the Bay Area. And we started to do a lot of private events because everything looks really good. So people also want to have it like at their birthday parties. We do a lot of theme, like food, like let's say for a baby shower, we'll do like blue stuff. And then we have like merchandise that is like for avocado lovers. So we have like avocado shirts, avocado mugs, avocado everything. So yeah. So I know everything, like when you look at someone's company, everything seems like really easy and perfect, but it's not. It's really hard. It's a lot of work. So when I was just starting, I realized, I read this book, which is great. And if you're going to start your own business, I really recommend it. And the first sentence of the book was that behind every small business, there's a person slowly going crazy. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. So I realized that there's like a system to make everything work. So this is kind of the main take from the book. So we all business owners fight with 3 personalities. So the first one is the technician. This is the doer. So this is the person that bakes the cake, the person that fixes the shoes. They live in the present and they're there following a system of how to make things work. Then you have a manager, which is like very pragmatic. They live in the past. They create systems based on all the data that they have in order to train the technicians. And then you have the entrepreneur, which is like the dreamer. He's thinking about the future and he's making the other 2 guys crazy without like the new ideas. And the real nirvana exists when there's a balance between these three personalities. Or let's say if you create a system where you have like technicians follow your system, you have a manager that makes sure the system is being followed. And let's say me, in my case, I'm more like the entrepreneur personality. I'm always thinking about new ideas, how to execute them, how to grow our brand. And so yeah, so some people, I guess, like especially here, since we're with hospitality people, some people might be more of a technician because they're a chef, but then they open a restaurant and they realize like, wait, I don't know how to be the manager, or wait, I don't know how to grow my brand. So for me, it really helped me understand like this structure. So my main takes up like from starting my business was like, one, you need to create a system that runs your business. It would really help you like understand how everything works, control your costs, and also once you have like new employees, you can also train them really easily because you basically hand them in like a manual. Then you have to create a culture about caring. I realized like you cannot really pay people to care, but you have to like kind of create that culture where like you care about things and they also care about it. They care about you, they care about your customers, and they care about your product, and then they can follow the system that you already created. And one thing that is like really important is that you have to work on your business and not in your business. If you stay all the time in operations, your business is never going to grow because you need to go out there and sit down and think like, okay, what's our next step? So yeah, so once you have a system, once you have a brand, once you have a team that can run the business, you have like a model that can be easily replicated. And that's kind of our plan. We're thinking about franchising now and ideally bringing Toasty to your hometown. And yeah, and then I just want to finish with this quote that is like, every person in their lifetime has had a billion-dollar idea. And it's true, we all have like great ideas. We just need to start executing our ideas and just focus on what we think it's like the best idea and redirect all our energy into that. So now I pass it over to Mayor.
Thanks, Sophia. Hi, everyone. I'm Mayor. I am a self-titled hospitality entrepreneur. Basically, I'm from Turkey, and then my life story goes, I went to the US to study industrial engineering and also did a minor in innovation and digital entrepreneurship. And basically, at school, they pushed us to become entrepreneurs. They were like, it'll be easy, go do it. And I fell for the trap or I fell for it. Basically, I was excited about it. And I started Hostel Path with one of my roommates. Hospitality was not what I studied, but I traveled a bunch as a kid. So I basically fell into the hospitality industry, and I've been there since. Basically, it's been 4.5 years now since I've been in the industry. So we started the startup super young, and the idea of Hostel Path was to create a path that will allow people to travel all around Europe with one purchase, basically, and with curated, personalized travel according to the customer's needs. So I worked on that for 2 years and some change, signing up over like 500 hostels over Europe, knocking on doors, doing sales, product development, like raising money. It was a wild ride, and it took courage. It took honestly putting yourself out there, believing on yourself. And long story short, we made some mistakes like developing the technology, and I've decided that in like 2018, I decided that I should put my efforts into more like self-development, working in more established companies. But after like seeing the state of the hospitality industry, how much I can add, and like just building my network on that, I decided that like that was a good path for me to build a career on. So in April 2018, I joined another startup called, I've only worked in startups in my life. So I joined Lifehouse, which is a hospitality company. Their business model revolves around basically managing full-run hotels, kind of redeveloping them, making them into a nice brand. And they work with investment partners, basically. And what they do is just make the hotel experience better, Silicon Valley back. So I had a small role there. I only worked as a contractor for 3 months, but that was an interesting experience. I want to talk a second about that. Basically, I joined to kind of do customer like product development, but the needs of the company were very different, which tends to happen at startups. So I ended up randomly running a 33-room hostel in Miami for 3 months, kind of preparing it for renovation without any prior knowledge, like doing check-ins, check-outs, like revenue management, cleaning, everything. So it was kind of a weird entrepreneurial story that I was kind of dropped into, and it came through just like being open to new experiences and saying yes to things. And then my last role was at Sonder, which is a vacation rental company. The business model revolves around renting apartments and then turning them into like fancy Airbnbs that are run by a company. And I worked there for a year and a half, or like over a year and a half, as a revenue analyst. I had 3 cities that I was managing on my own. I helped form a sales team basically that helped us get through the pandemic, like the height of the pandemic in like March and April. So overall, I've been like active in like getting myself out there and finding new exciting business models that I can add value to. So, and I'm right now, it's been 2 months and I decided that it's time for something new. I haven't figured out what it is yet, but I'm definitely open for ideas and suggestions if you're ready to start build something. Can I get the next slide? So I found like 4 images that kind of, for me, summarizes what it takes to be an entrepreneur. The first one is,
Sorry.
Be curious. So you gotta be a human who is curious. You have to like read, research, like look at all the experiences, kind of understand what is going on in the world, and then that takes like a lot of curiosity and presence. The second thing that I think is important is the excitement, that the buzz that comes to any entrepreneur. You said like, I'm going to build this, I'm going to do this. You have 1,000 million ideas that you want to share and do, but the excitement is necessary, but it can also be overwhelming, which is why I put the third picture there, which is stay grounded, because I think like any successful entrepreneur, and like, I think it's like a balance between excitement and being grounded, can like have a million ideas, but it takes having your feet on the ground and having. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, it's a little bit broken up, but we can hear you, but it's a bit broken up. I don't think there's much you can do unless you can stick some headphones in or fix your Wi-Fi.
Is this better?
Oh my, 1,000 times better.
The headphones. Okay. So yeah, it's like a mixture between staying excited and staying grounded. I think those are the 2 kind of things that any entrepreneur has to balance. And then I think seeing the big picture, and this goes like through all entrepreneurship, but we live in the technology world. We live in like an interdisciplinary area. It's not like I'm doing hospitality and that's the only thing that I'm doing. I think there's a lot of reading what the world is, reading different industries, following the technologies, and like just kind of being able to take a step back and understanding like what is needed in the market is necessary. So those are like 4 pillars that I found. You can add 10, you can subtract 10. There's like, I'd like to get your thoughts on being an entrepreneur, but I think these are like kind of summarize my experience. Can I get the next slide? So I want to talk about some trends going back into like the hospitality industry and like what entrepreneurship is right now in my mind in hospitality, and like what I see is happening in the market. I follow a bunch of people on LinkedIn, like talk and like meet a lot of people, and I'm excited about like new products. And I think, as you all know, like we're all working remote, we're all doing digital meetings, and the future of like digital nomads is now. Like, of course, it's been growing and on the works for many years. We've been talking about co-living for over like 5-10 years now in the industry, but now like it's suddenly pushed super forward, and there's this idea of people traveling and kind of staying at places for longer stays, and like a mixture between housing and hospitality. Like there's this term housing as a service, hospitality, where like you go on a weekend trip or you can like do a staycation. But I think there will be, and there is people working on this, there will be successful companies who work on building communities, work on kind of empowering people on where how they live, and like creating atmospheres for growth, which is essentially like what a good experience, hospitality experience in my mind should be about. Like I think of course there will always be people who like go to a city, stay for 2 days, take pictures of the monuments and then leave, and there's definitely opportunities there to develop that. But I think there lies a big gap in companies that do this well for like this new big segment that is rising. Like Sonder is trying to create its own products. I know like Selena has been working on this as like a company, but I think anything that supports and develops this is gonna be, it's worth trying in my mind. So that's kind of my take on what's happening in the digital nomad space. Get the next slide. Another thing that I want to talk about that I think is pretty new, I don't know, I mean, anyone who's following the industry is probably aware, but vacation rentals. Like Sonder is the largest player and I've been working there for 8.5 years, and it's just kind of very buzzy right now because during the pandemic, like vacation rentals occupancies, at least Sonder's occupancies, went up to 80% with the products that they're offering, while hotels are still struggling at 20s, 30s, depending on location and like luxury level. So there is room around remote location, domestic travel, and like houses with kitchens where people can have their own offices. Like in my mind, people are looking less and less in cookie cutter experiences and kind of looking to expand. So there are a lot of companies right now that are trying to support vacation rentals, and like there are a lot of companies that do the Sonder model, which kind of rents a place and then like does an arbitrage model on kind of using it as a hotel room. So there's a lot of innovation happening in this segment as well. So I think it's like worth discussing on like ideas that could be done on this front, or like, I think it's just like, I mean, this is a major subject to talk about. So I just wanted to kind of talk about it for a second. And it's like very relevant to my background. Can I get the next slide? So lastly, I want to talk about like, of course, anyone like major form of entrepreneurship here would be like starting your own space, starting your hotel, but I am more interested in the digital side and like kind of enabling these hospitality services to kind of happen. So I want to talk about like distribution first. Right now with the pandemic happening, it's really hard for people to get customers, occupancies at the prices that they desire. So there are a lot of like helper products that kind of allow people to increase website traffic and like segment and personalize the product that they're offering. So the basically getting the customer and like anything that companies can do to help like spaces get customers, I think is gonna be more and more important, especially with the pandemic. Like OTA traffic is not enough, so any creative solution there would be great. And if anyone has any ideas, as I said, I'd love to discuss. The second thing is during the stay. We're all like, every hotel company is trying to maximize revenue through like prices, but there's also other aspects of like revenue management through upselling and cross-selling and making sure that the customer is getting the correct experience and the property is making the most amount of money as possible. So there are a lot of products that I see in the space that is kind of pushing for that. And another aspect of the intra-stay like experiences, cleanliness and like contactless entry to the house and to the room and that kind of stuff. So that is also, a lot of players are emerging in that space. And the third kind of big player or big category in entrepreneurship and like technology products, I believe, is helping people kind of helping like the property owners take accounts in terms of like a property management system or a revenue management system or any kind of integrated systems here are kind of the future in my mind, that are like the now and the future, where through the products, to integrating different companies and different like software as a service companies, we can create an experience for the customer that goes beyond like one product. So I mean, I think these are the trends. There's a lot more, obviously, and I would love to get your opinions, but kind of put these together, and this has been on my mind. Next slide. I think this is all on me, but
Cool.
Overall, I mean, I think it's an exciting time for entrepreneurship, even though it's a hard time. I'm not gonna like, I mean, crisis means opportunity. Everyone knows that, but also like, not everyone is spending a lot of money in this industry, so it's harder to find customers. I mean, James knows this better than anyone else. So it is hard, but I think there's a lot to be done when you put yourself out there. And yeah, I don't know, like, are the people here looking for jobs or looking for ideas or looking to work in like startup companies? But I think whatever you're trying to do, if you have like an entrepreneurial mindset, there's always kind of room for innovation, and like you do get ahead working at a company. That's been my experience, at least.
Perfect. Thanks, Mia. That's fab. That's awesome. So I've got a couple of questions people have been pinging me privately, and I see Carla's got a question too. I'll just quickly kick off. It's a question for Sophia, actually. So from kind of concept and idea through to your first store opening, could you just briefly describe that process you went through, kind of, and how long it took? Like, I guess, how did you kind of test your idea, get your hypothesis up and running before you kind of, went all in?
So honestly, I didn't really have like a clear plan. I just kind of moved to California. I noticed like a lot of places were serving avocado toast, and I was like, oh, but they don't have like toppings anywhere. You could only add like salmon or only add an egg. So I was like, oh, what if I make like the home of avocado toast? So that was kind of like the focus. And I decided from the beginning to do a concept that is really simple, that what I said again, that it can multiply really easily. But also I feel like when you're like really into a niche, like really specific product, you become more like, people know you for something. People know us for avocado toast. Like if you search for avocado toast in San Francisco, like we're there first, like on all the search engines. So yeah, so to go back to the question, it took me about like 3 months, which is not like really long. It was like I had like the idea, since it's a simple idea, like pretty simple. I wanted my logo to be an avocado. I needed a name, so I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about a name. And my boyfriend said, what about Toasty? And I was like, Toasty, I'm not sure. And then I couldn't think about anything better. But now I like it. It's kind of cute and short. And yeah, and that was it. And I just created our original menu. Only had like 6 toasts. Now we have 12, and we added a few salads because bread is evil. So some people want bread. I mean salads.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it.
Very cool. Kept it really lean. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, exactly.
Good one.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I feel like sometimes like not overthinking it is the way to go.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Run lean. And just say to everyone, if you want to kind of flick on your cameras now, that's awesome. Or the more of us we can see, the better. If you've got questions, just drop them in the chat, or kind of stick your hand up if you want to do that. Carla, you had a question. Want to go ahead and ask that?
Yeah, sure. And I don't have the camera on because there's lots of people around at the moment, so apologies. So I think there's been a ton of startup approaches that have been used and then translated into all size businesses. I'm interested to hear from you guys. What have you used, or what have you seen in other startups that you think we can use in kind of mid-sized businesses or larger businesses that are maybe not at that startup stage, but you think could be used in larger businesses?
Okay, well, I think like, as I mentioned earlier, like for me, the most important thing is to have a system that everyone can follow. So your business doesn't depend on you specifically. Like you want to be able to go on vacation, your business needs to keep running without you. So I think that having like a really well-defined system that people can run is like #1 priority for any size of business.
Yeah, it's helpful. Mia, any thoughts?
I mean, I think constantly like innovating and changing and kind of looking into your practices and as an entrepreneurial thing within itself, like kind of circularly thinking, like, is this what I want to do, and prioritizing also what has to be done, because there's a lot of like competing priorities once you're like at a startup. So I'd say make sure you're like working on the correct things, or try to like build a chart where you're prioritizing things properly, and constantly think of like new things that you can add to your business, and like keep on innovating would be, I'd say, like an entrepreneurial approach in my mind.
Mia, is there, James, is it all right if I ask a follow-up question? Because actually I think I was going to do it anyway. So Mia, you've got some really interesting background with very large businesses and probably some smaller ones. How do you see innovation work best as its own hub, or do you think innovation should be a culture for a business and everybody should be innovating, or really do you think that then conflicts with priorities and it should be a standalone division?
I mean, that's a good question. I think you can take two different approaches, obviously, as you said. I think, of course, it sounds flashy and nice when you say like everyone should innovate and everyone should be an entrepreneur, but like if everyone has 1,000 things to do at the same time, then that like the core of the business does not work. And I've seen like basically Saunders' approach, like the latest company I worked for, like there is an entrepreneurial mindset. Everyone is an owner. Everyone is trying to fix whatever they can while like focusing on their main priorities. But after the pandemic, they've moved into creating like a smaller team that kind of takes care of innovation and new business lines, kind of finding new customer segments, because I think like a good mixture of both makes sense, honestly. Like you need people who are kind of striving for this and thinking about this, and kind of building the culture where people are prioritizing this, but not like to the extent where they're not doing their actual jobs.
Yeah, I think I agree. It kind of partly depends what you want to achieve, right? But I think going back to your initial question, Carla, kind of your 3 lessons for larger businesses, it sounds like Mia's thoughts are creative innovation, prioritization. I think the third one I'd add is speed, which is just how small can you make something before you get it in front of a customer. Like obviously a super common concept of minimum viable product, but I think that's the thing that big companies they just don't even get. It's not in their language. I think that for me that ties to the second point. So big hotel chain, we've been helping with innovation. You want every team to innovate, but at the same time, if you're, again, for a hotel chain, if you're looking after Booking.com and Expedia, anything goes wrong on that for a couple of hours, and optimizing that just a little bit creates millions of dollars in revenues. So actually, it should probably be a whole different team that tries the new stuff, because innovation can take time, and if it's going to take a year or 2 to pay back, like it's just going to not hold the interest of that big team, where suddenly it might only help their targets by less than a percentage point. And that's where I think separate teams can really help, is where you need to start small, doing quite different stuff. But I think to Mia's point, if you can get every team to nudge forward a little bit, like make constant improvements, even if it's on the core, I think that they're different types of innovation, but they're definitely one to debate. Hibram, you had a good question here. Want to go ahead?
Yes.
Oh, you're on twice. You must love this, attending twice.
Wait, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. First of all, how all are you? I hope all of you are well. Yeah, I had a question regarding the avocado toast. Business model. Understanding the pandemic, and now you can't have people in dining there in your restaurant. I would just like to know if there's a focus right now on the delivery trend, and understanding that on some markets now there have been ghost kitchens and on specific points that are only for delivery. So I just wanted to ask Sophia, like, what's your take on this? Would you be open on working on that mode? Because there's certainly pros and cons to that business model, but
no.
So just wanted to hear your feedback on it, and what's your delivery strategy look like? right now.
Which
Yeah.
is
So-
super relatable to hotels as well, right? Like I know
Exactly.
like
It
Angela's
is.
here running a restaurant. You're like, there's a lot of restaurateurs around. So yeah, it'd be great to think about how you think about restaurants in the pandemic.
Yeah, so I mean, luckily, San Francisco never shut down the restaurants. We were always open for takeout and delivery. We were like, since the start, we were always on all the delivery platforms. I mean, most of these companies are from here, right? Uber Eats, Postmates, Caviar, DoorDash, like we're on all of them. And we definitely, like, that's what helped us survive through this. Like we saw like a spike of like, I don't know, 500% on deliveries. And one other cool thing that we started, which it's pretty new concept, is called like virtual restaurant. So it's different than a ghost kitchen. So it's basically you use your same products to create more brands on the delivery apps. So for example, we have a brand called Copacabana Acai because we also sell acai bowl. So we created like a menu for that brand. So we're more relevant on the delivery app. So people look for acai bowls, they might find Toasty, or they might find our acai bowl brand. We also started another brand called Avo Avo for avocado toast. So it's basically our same menu, just under another brand. So there's more chances of people actually buying from us. And then another idea that we've been discussing is like potentially, because there's a delivery range, I think it's like 5 miles. So potentially talking to other restaurants that are located like in a different delivery range and say like, hey, can we take a space of your kitchen? We'll pay like, I don't know, $1,000 a month to be here, and we deliver from that kitchen. So that way we have like a bigger range for delivery. I looked into ghost kitchens. I feel like that works if you're gonna cook, but we don't really cook. So I think we're more flexible and where we can sell from. We just need to, be like on a health department approved kitchen. So yeah.
Quick follow-up one on that before we move to broader topics. Would you recommend food delivery to hotels? Would you just be like, do you think that just is the expectation now of guests, that they should be able to get your food in their house, or do you think it's still a discussion to be had?
I mean, definitely. I feel like if people are not coming to you, you need to come to them. That's definitely like how the world works right now. People are at home. Some people are scared of going out. And then you have like a bigger range, like maybe some people will go for a walk, but they live like a few blocks from your restaurant. So I feel like with these delivery apps and using their technology, like you can really reach so many more places.
Yeah, no, really interesting. Okay, another question we've got here, and I think it links to what we're talking about. How do you balance your working on the business right now and thinking about the future? So again, I guess last 6 months or so, this has been a whirlwind, right? And you've got to be kind of survival mode, making money right now, meeting the bills, but you've also found this time to be really creative, setting up in other stores. So how do you, like, as you plan your weeks or months, how do you think about splitting that time between working on the current and work on the future? Because again, I'm guessing that'd be interesting for all of us with a lot of priorities. You feel free to shoot, Sophia.
Okay, it was for me. Okay, I was just.
It's for both of you, but I think you've just talked about so many new things you've tried. I think that's a really interesting one.
Yeah, no, I feel like normally I'm the catering manager of the business, so we have like a lot of catering, and now that like stopped, like it really gave me time to rethink like our core business, which is retail. So really like optimizing the systems, like cutting out like unnecessary costs, like things that you don't even realize you're paying for. But yeah, I feel like you have to be like half, like focus on the operation, but also think about the future. Unless, I mean, if not, like you just stay like kind of where you are. So I kind of already created a schedule for myself. Like I go into the store like 3 times a week. The rest of the week, I have kind of a schedule like, okay, I work in finance, I work in marketing, I work in the future. So it's kind of like, it's all about like time management. And that's, I think, like the key for any person, like even at a job, like you have to manage your time to make it more, I don't know, that's to manage your time.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Lars, you had a question. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sorry, was still on mute. Hi, everybody. Thanks for sharing, obviously, Mia and Sophia. It's always great to see practical cases and stories. I had a question. Obviously, digital is coming big in, and everybody's talking about it. and if you're not taking it up, you'll be dead soon. And I basically agree on it, but especially on the development of startups where we have some business ideas, and also having this issue, like you said, you have a small team driving the innovation, hopefully, but now we're all working remote. Have you found any specific digital tools, softwares, programs, application very helpful to keep track on how in your startup things are processing, if somebody is doing their support job, bringing people back together? Just some best practices with a name on it, let's put it this way.
I mean, in my experience, Slack is one of the major tools. I mean, everyone is kind of on that in the startup world. It's like a major fast communication platform. At Sonder, we were using Asana. I don't know if if you've heard of the product, but it's a task management kind of software where you can build processes. You can like send tasks to each other. So at my time at Sonder, I got maybe like 5 emails in total. Like email was not a thing at all. Basically, like if there was something that had to be done in less than 24 hours, you send a message, and in 24 hours, and then a task. So that process worked really well for us. Those are the 2 things that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think with kind of video calling, somewhere to communicate like a Slack, and then somewhere to manage who's doing what. We use Monday.com, which is exactly the same as Asana. Essentially, quickly create tasks. You can prioritize right there. You can kind of set due dates and tag people. I think there's some really simple ones that take the to-do list off the walls of what we were doing. I think some of the online product management ones are really interesting as well. And just trying to recreate planning sessions is what I see a lot of clients struggling with now. Okay, we're going into 2021 planning. How do we do that? Because that used to be whiteboards and to-do lists. But I think there's a few tools. There's a really good one called Miro, M-I-R-O, which is launched as well. So endless amounts of stuff out there. I've got a question about kind of the softer side of sorry, go on.
One thing to add there is like, it's not a digital product, but it's kind of a method. Kind of writing briefs of like what everyone has done that week, like what challenges they faced, what they've accomplished, and what's blocking them. Just keeping like a weekly account of, I don't know like how big the companies are, but just having that week over week compile and tagging each other, like we use Asana for that, is really helpful to kind of get things going and make sure everyone is actually like performing.
Yeah. And do you do that face to face as well? Do you have like kind of, either a daily or a weekly stand up or kind of quick catch up, or is it all just online?
We're in the office. We had like 2 meetings like on my team every week, like 1 hour long meetings where everyone kind of went through their projects. That's when we moved to remote. It was like daily stand-ups, 15 minutes, 3 times a week, kind of just checking in on what everyone is doing. And then the brief is for the entire company, where you can kind of see what the head of expansion is doing, or revenue, or supply, or like whatever like department there is in the company. It's a good way to kind of keep that transparency culture, to show that everyone is actually trying to push, which is like an important, I think, thing to have at an entrepreneurial mindset company. Yeah.
So kind of a couple questions have come through here. Do you think that hospitality is entrepreneurial enough? It's kind of part 1. Part 2 is, do you think you can teach it? Do you think the industry could get better?
Teach entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like me personally, I don't feel like you can teach it. You can teach like people like basic things like how to create models, how to manage a team, but then in real life you learn everything kind of like on the go. Especially like nobody teaches you at school how to be anyone's boss. So then like it's also like a learning process, that part, like how to manage a team, how to act like the boss without feeling like you're the bad cop of the story. So I think it's more like on the go, and I feel like some people are built for it. Like I've talked to a lot of people who just want to have a job and they're okay with that, and they have 21 days off, and sometimes I want to be like those people, because I feel like you're never really off, right? You're always in the back of your mind thinking about it, but I feel it's more like a personality type.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question, James.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, of course, Angelo.
I just put on the group chat, but I was a little bit interesting about the emotional side, because to become an entrepreneur in a way, as I wrote, you take a sort of a leap of faith on to become an entrepreneur. At the same time, obviously, you're gonna have your analysis and your business, your core business, nice and sorted, but that emotional side to say, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do that. How do you handle that in a way that you're just gonna go for it and say let's hope for the best, or is a chance that you need to take, good or bad, you have to go for it?
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I guess part of that is probably the situation you're in, right? And actually, do you feel like you've got enough financial runway in terms of money in the bank to try something new, to buy yourself time? So a couple of thoughts. I know a lot of people start things as a bit of a side project, which means you can test the water while you've got the security of your job and your set holiday. But the other insight, which I think kind of throws up, is now is probably a better time than ever. And I think you're going to see a lot of people moving on into the entrepreneurship space, because potentially people aren't earning as much as they were before, or have more time, or frankly, they're earning nothing. So, it's a really good complement to sitting around and job searching and networking, is this idea that you wake up in the morning with a mission that you're creating and an option. So I think it'll be an interesting insight as we map the numbers of entrepreneurs, whether everything from, I suppose, independent consultants right the way through to whole new businesses being created, because I think part of it's to do with your starting point, which is kind of how much have you got to lose. But that's kind of perhaps just one perspective. Sophia, you were going to say?
No, I think like if you make like an analysis and you have like a product that you feel like people will like, it's all about passion at the end of the day. Like you can become the best at doing anything you want to do. Like if I decide tomorrow I want to be a professional basketball player and I focus all my energy towards that, I'll become one. So I think it's all about passion and trusting in yourself. But of course, like the emotional part is hard. It's hard sometimes not having someone tell you what to do. Sometimes there's really good days when you're really happy about everything. Sometimes there's really bad days. But I feel like you have to disconnect a little bit from the day-to-day operations. Like I used to get really sad if we had like a really bad like sales day, or if we got a bad review. But then you slowly start to detach emotionally from these things, because it's the bigger picture that matters. And what James also said, it depends where you're in your life. Like I was just like looking for a job. I didn't have a job, and I thought like, okay, I should try it now. I have like nothing to lose. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have kids. I don't have anything. Like this is the time to do it. So that was kind of my personal experience. But I feel like it's all about passion. And if you're passionate about what you want to do, I'm sure like 100% you'll achieve it.
Yeah, I think you're getting vehement agreement on the kind of hustling side of things there, Sophia. I think in the end, what Carla and Hibram was basically saying, yeah, you just hustle a lot harder. The safety net's kind of gone. It's not like a lot of us aren't quitting well-paid, safe jobs now. We're like, this is it. And it's going to be a tough ride for our industry. So I think there is a reason to kind of get going. Laura, you had a really good question, I think, around talent. Great to hear that.
Yeah. Hi. I'm just wondering, do you see like a division between, there's the hospitality entrepreneurs that may not be coming from hospitality school or a background, and then there's the 5-star kind of management training programs where you've got to have all the experience. Is there a division? Sonder, did you I think quite a few people have hospitality backgrounds and they've switched, but do you kind of come to blocks, or do you kind of find that, we're lacking this knowledge now, and we wish there was more merge between the two? How do you see this?
I think that's a great question, because something that we struggled with at Sonder actually was like the hiring policy was not around hiring hospitality people. Like I worked in hospitality, but like did not study it. And basically 95% of the company, or even more, was that way. Like people like Sonder wanted push their hiring to hire people from like non-hospitality, more like agile kind of backgrounds. I mean, there is the notion of, if you go to like hospitality school does not necessarily train you to be entrepreneurial, which I think is like a hole that has to be fixed. That was what Sonder taught. But on the other part, there were a lot of struggles at Sonder because of this decision. Like they hired tech people, they hired like smart entrepreneurs to do other things. but there was the lack of like good institutional knowledge on how to like manage operations well, or like revenue management, or this or that, because I think like there should be a mixture of, I mean, ideally the divide is broken and hospitality school becomes more entrepreneurial, but also I think like the basically at Sonder, I definitely saw like the push to hire people from non-hospitality backgrounds.
Yeah.
I think for me, Laura, great question. Kind of having kind of looked at tech companies, hotel chains, and education as well. I think you have to have the diversity. I think the companies I've seen, they do have both. I think from what Mia is saying, it's really interesting. I think some of those startups have really struggled, because it's great to bring breakthrough thinking about how fast we bring in tech and how fast we grow. But at the end of the day, you know, the GDS is the GDS, and you're going to have to distribute through it to get to corporate. You know, these are the kind of things you end up catching up on that knowledge on, or that kind of guest experience. It's just, there are just ways of dealing with problems. There are ways of dealing with customer service, even if you're going to replicate it digitally and not have, you know, a concierge or someone standing there at the front desk. So I think it's got to be a balance where the kind of tech-led entrepreneurial mindset probably pushes us harder than we've used to in hospitality, but we at least have, I guess, a series of principles that, like, I think there's some really sensible principles here that probably need to live on even in this more entrepreneurial world. I'm certainly finding that as I build my team. I really want to engage with the hospitality community, and hospitality people do that really well, but at the same time, amazing to have a fresh perspective. And I think that kind of comes back to our question around, can you teach it? I guess a question we're getting is, you know, if you had time on your hands right now and you wanted to kind of pick up skills in this space, and Mia, you had a great slide of the kind of skills you need, where would you go? Where would you recommend people start to either, you know, think about getting some practical experience, or to start the kind of developing skills and competencies that you're talking about and you both clearly have in abundance? Where would you go for some of those, for some of that kind of training and development?
I mean, in my mind, if you have the means, try something. Like, that is the best way to learn. Like, if you want to learn entrepreneurship, go try it out, create a minimum viable product. I mean, it depends on what kind of skills you're talking about. If there's no jobs, you're not going to learn how to be a concierge, or like you're not going to learn revenue management directly at a hotel. But I would recommend like online courses, learn data skills, learn Python. Like, I'm thinking more of the digital side of things. Learn like whatever like area you want to go and learn, and also communicate. Like, it's also a matter of presentation. Like, you can know a whole lot and not communicate anything, but I think it's really important to like distribute what you know on LinkedIn, make sure you're connecting with people, because at the end of the day, like, you're going to learn your job at your job. So definitely build skills, but also talk about them. And like online learning and like asking for data sets for like your previous company to have the opportunity would be good. I'm thinking of a data background, but I mean, yeah, that's like my take on it.
Yeah, thanks. Sophia?
No, I feel like you can always find people to work with. Like, maybe I have a really good idea, but I don't have money. I can partner up with someone who wants to invest in my idea, or I have money and I don't have an idea. You know, it could go both ways. Or maybe it's not about just money. Maybe I'm not good at accounting or anything. You can always find people to help you along the way. And, you know, maybe if you don't have the means to pay them at the start, you can kind of offer like a equity style, you know, payment, you know, in the future. Or I don't know, it just depends like what type of skills you're looking for. But yeah, definitely like online learning, it's huge right now. Also books. I found like I love Audible. I listen to a lot of books about entrepreneurship, and you know, it really helps you. Like, the thing about being an entrepreneur, sometimes it can be lonely, you know, because you're there on your own, and then like I don't know, I feel like if you connect with other entrepreneurs and, you know, hear the stories, it really helps you, you know, in your own journey.
Yeah. Any top recommendations?
For the book that I recommend, that it's called The E-Myth Revised. I'm gonna write it here. I feel like it's the best book to start with.
Thank you. I think that's been really, really helpful. I think it feels like a bit of a no-brainer that if you're interested in these skills, whether you want to start your own business, get back into the hospitality industry, explore adjacencies, like maybe some of the tech companies, it feels like having a side project or a side hustle is probably a bit of a no-brainer right now, right? There's such a low barrier to entry to building your own website, or building your own social media kind of offering in anything that you're passionate in. I think one of my observations, having done a huge amount of recruitment over the last kind of 4 or 5 weeks at both a 5 to 10 year level and at an entry level, is the number of people who are doing nothing with their time versus those people who, you can see they've built themselves an online portfolio, or they've set up their own website, and they're able to talk with a real passion about SEO and conversion rates and some of these skills. So I'm absolutely with you, Mia. I think if you want to go with this space and you want to build skills in this space, it doesn't mean you have to be an entrepreneur one day, but have it, learning the kind of skills and day-to-day tips and tricks of how it all works that you could apply even in a bigger company. You've just got to get started with something. So I know it's tough as confidence is lower and we're thinking about getting jobs, or we're going to protect the job we've got, but carving out that time to actually try something new does feel like it could be a bit of a no regret, right? It's never going to turn up in a job interview or on your resume and look bad that you started your own initiative. You're always going to have that story to tell. Would you agree?
Definitely. And I feel like one thing that is like great is like you learn so much about so many different aspects. Like I thought one day, like, let's say if I was going to apply for a job, I wouldn't even know where to start, like now I know about marketing, about finance, about operations, like what thing do I want to focus on? Like I would have like a hard time like choosing that, because right now I get to do everything. So I feel it really gives you like a very complete like experience.
Yeah. And actually, one of the topics we've been talking about a lot is that even within hospitality, which is quite traditionally siloed, the expectations of the future will be smaller teams, cross-functionally trained, able to do more jobs. So what you've just said is probably the perfect hospitality candidate of tomorrow, right? If whether we end up with less people on property or whatever, you're going to be expected to be a bit more multifunction, I think. So again, potentially the hospitality schools need to do some catching up, but we can all take that initiative and learn some skills outside the function we were trained in, perhaps around marketing or ops. No, really interesting. So that book was E-Myth Revised, right? If anyone hasn't got the chat, so let's definitely get out and read that. So last question for you. What are your expectations for the future of the industry? Just a kind of quick comment on, I suppose, the space you play in. Like, what do you think might unfold in the next year or two? It's a pretty broad question, but I'd love to kind of get a bit of a crystal ball going with the two of you. Mia, you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, in the hospital, like vacation rental / hotel space, I think like anything that caters to digital nomads on like the property side and creates unique personalized experiences and can find the right people will get ahead of the game. And you have to do it in a cost-effective way. Obviously, your competition is like Sonder or other like vacation rentals or hotels that are running quite leanly. So I think like space-wise, there is a big opportunity there. Also, glamping, anything outdoors, people are not gonna flock back into the cities anytime soon in my mind. I don't think Corona is going away very soon. Maybe I'm a pessimist, but I think like keeping people outdoors, giving the right safety, and any technology that supports this, honestly. So there's a plethora of things you can do, from like creating a new revenue management system for properties, or like PMSs, this, that, safety procedures. I even saw like a company who gives an iPad and you can order things from your like serviced apartment. There's like a bunch of that, but I think just reading what's happening in the post-corona world correctly and catering to that, you will get like those companies will be successful.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Mia. Sophia, final thoughts?
Yeah, well, definitely delivery apps are going to grow more. Also, like a lot of technology in restaurants, like we ourselves, we also have like a self-ordering kiosk. We don't come close to our customers. They take their order, they can customize everything. We have QR codes at the table where people can order from their phones. So definitely applying more like technological solutions to the whole operation. I've seen like even robots that flip burgers, but okay, that's another story. And then I see like maybe it already started with the cloud kitchen, but like maybe more like co-branding spaces. So I see like a place where, let's say I bring my avocado toast and there's another person that roasts coffee. They'll be in charge of the coffee program in this space. And I feel that that would also help you like distribute the cost of like the whole place. And yeah, and definitely I think like right now a lot of businesses went out of business, unfortunately, but it's also a good opportunity for us to find like new locations, to get good deals, to take over like, I don't know, restaurants or spaces that other people cannot like maintain right now. So I think it's also a good opportunity to start looking around.
Great opportunity in a crisis. No, fantastic. We've reached the top of the hour, sadly, but I think absolutely loads more we could say. I really, really appreciate both of your views. I thought you really teed up that conversation brilliantly. I think there's a load of really interesting skills there around curiosity and proactivity that we could probably all take away. And just a lot of really practical things we could do to get started, whether looking to be more entrepreneurial as our own business, in our work, or in our kind of next role while we're job searching. So as ever, thanks everyone for your contribution and attendance and attention. That's been great. Mira, Sophia, it's been awesome to have you co-host with me. Really appreciate it. Quick couple of thoughts, those of you who are in the community, we're going to be sending out a quick survey just to get some feedback on kind of what we're up to across our kind of online platform. It'd be great if you could kind of take a few minutes and respond to that coming up in the next couple of days. Otherwise, we will see you next week, 5 o'clock UK time, 12 o'clock Eastern time, and do it all again. So I look forward to catching you then. Thanks so much for your time, everyone. Have a great weekend.
You.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.